Hello, this is Mark here at Garrett's Guitars, and I'm here to talk about the Fender Tone Master Edition Deluxe Reverb amp, and generally the Tone Master amps, 1 year later. I've had this amp for 1 year. Let's talk about what it's been great for, how it's like a Deluxe Reverb, how it's not like a Deluxe Reverb. Let's get into it. So, just played it at a show last night. Really glad I brought this amp. So it made me think, like, man, I should tell people about this. So let's just, for those of you who didn't see my part 1 video, I did talk about this a year or two ago when it came out. It looks, smells, interfaces just like a Deluxe Reverb. So a lot of these modeling amps, to me, they've all been like, they make this little box that does absolutely everything but nothing great. This was a really interesting idea, which is or is an interesting idea. They make the cabinet in the same factory as they make the rest of the the other Deluxe Reverb amps. The Deluxe is the same, the feel is the same, the interface is the same, but you're really controlling a little digital thing inside. And it's a Class D amplification, meaning there's no tubes, no transformers, and it's that, the same thing that's made PAs really great lately, same technology. I am Mr. Tube. I've owned tube amps as long as I've owned amps. I have 2 tube stereos at home. I have about 22 tube amplifiers in my studio. And this. So, what makes this great for me? Why do I take this to gigs? Well, first of all, it's comically light. It weighs half as much as a regular Deluxe Reverb, and I parked in the parking garage and I carried it to the gig. I didn't have to pull up to the door, load out, and then go find some place to park. So that's an advantage. Some of the things that people will say that does not sound exactly like, I've had them side by side. This Deluxe Reverb does not sound like the real Deluxe Reverb. Fender's been making the Deluxe Reverb for 50, 60 years, I'm guessing. Deluxe with reverb somewhere in the early 60s. So there's a lot of Deluxe Reverbs out there. They all have varying sounds. You got the pre-CBS, you got the drip edge, you got the post-CBS, you got the reissues. It's first of all, it's a moving target. Second of all, the things about this amp that aren't exactly like the Deluxe Reverb is why I choose it. So, because it has that Class D amplification, it's very wide, so it has a very powerful output stage. This amp claims to be 22 watts, and in the preamp section, it's kind of, acts like a 22 watt amp, but they didn't make a 22 watt Class D power amp. As a matter of fact, I suspect that all these heads are kind of the same, and they just put the software in. This one's going to be a twin, this one's going to be, but the actual board is probably the same. That being said, very full range. It adds a little bottom to the body to the bottom of the sound, a little depth, because you have a lot of headroom in your power stage. Your modeling happens in the preamp stage, and that's where it gets the snarliness, if you want the snarl of it. But transformers act as high pass filters. No transformer can pass. No transformer. Transformers begin to dive off around. Well, it depends on the amp. On a Deluxe, it probably starts to dive off around 40 hertz. You see, if there's a, if you dive off the bass edge, so if you're looking from that direction. So, to me, this is the bass side, your bass side. So, so you would have an equalization curve that just, and then down to 0, but there's a dive off. And that sculpts the sound. Here, it's very full range. It goes down as far as you can hear. It might go up as far as you can hear too. In that headroom, in that area, is what gives you an interestingly robust sound. Last night I played a Vox Continental through this, and with a rock band, and a hard rock band, and it dished out. The guy next to me was playing a Marshall, the other guy was playing an AC30, and I was keeping up with him with this little 22 watt amp. Because, like I said, maybe it's not really 22 watts. The more power you put into it, because I was using an organ, the more volume you get out of it, and it was overperforming in that case. But also, I often play at shows where I'm playing guitar and a keyboard, often a Nord, because they're so portable and so handy. I use the organ sounds, I love the Wurlitzer sounds in that, and the Rhodes sounds live. But if I'm doing a smaller show and I'm doing I can do the keyboard in one channel and the guitar into the other channel. The traditional guitar amp sounds that keyboards make, like Wurlitzer and Rhodes, and even the CP70 are alright. Organ sounds fine through a regular guitar amp. But if I try to play piano through a regular guitar amp, if I put on the piano sound, it sounds bad. Because there's a narrowness to it. It sounds like a piano plugged into a guitar amp. But in this amp, I put the piano sounds into channel 1, put the guitar into channel 2, set this for the keyboard, and man, I can even use the piano sound. It's very full range and very dynamic, and it puts out what you put into it. And for hollow body guitars, I like that quite a bit. Because I like that acousticy tone, you know, that kind of accompanies the hollow body tone. So I was using this recently with my Guild X170, I think it is, happily. The reverb, famously, is a little much on these. They have a patch you can download, and probably the newest versions of this amp have the newer version of reverb. So whereas I like my Fender reverb on 2.5, this kind of like at 2, it's a lot of reverb. But it's a really interesting reverb. It's not really spring reverb. And that's the other thing about like the things that make this amp not a regular deluxe reverb are what I like about it. It's a pretty cool spatial reverb. It's not a perfect spring sound, but I like it. Yeah. It's a cool option. It's kind of like maybe a Holy Grail spring sound or something. I don't know, maybe it's a unique sound. That's not quite spring, 100%. The vibrato is spot on, by the way. Vibrato is easy to do. They've been doing that since the 30s. Two-band EQ works like it should in the Fender amp. It's a great gigging machine, and then of course it has the DI out, and I love showing up at the gig and and just giving the sound guy that DI out, and that way he gets the sound. There's no, I mean, you can mic up an amp, of course, live, but it's just a little bit simpler. And then I've used the DI out in the studio. I decided one day, hey, I'm going to A/B this DI out with a mic, because there's a mic simulator built in. So like where the mic, a couple different versions of the DI you can choose from. And so I was like, I'm going to mic this amp out and take the DI and listen to them both. Remarkably similar. And so I think we were working on something and we wanted to do a little chicka chicka guitar thing. I just put the DI in. Because it's just a little background chicka chicka, just to get the workflow going. And so especially if you're a home studio person, this amp could be a great tool for that. For getting really good guitar tones in a simple way, and just getting the Fender sound. Because when you have that knob that says Tweed on it, and you put it to or whatever, or black plate, and it falls short on a lot of those multi effects. This I dig. So that's my report, my book report. I like the Deluxe Reverb version. There's also the twin version and the super version are also pretty cool. The Deluxe Reverb I chose because it is comically light. The twin and super are just plain old light. I do like the simplicity of it. We recently here in the store sold the twins and the supers. The supers are pretty cool. They put out a righteous sound for the same reason that full range 4 speakers really pushing. So definitely worth checking into if you're a super fan as well. I'm sticking with this one, and I'm going to give it my thumbs up 1 year later. I'm glad I have it, and I do make use of it. Thanks for watching. Check out all the other videos here on Gary's Guitars YouTube page. Check out Facebook and Instagram, and stay in touch. Come on by, try out a Tone Master, try out any other amplifier. We got lots of tube amps here too. So thanks for watching.